Hey everyone, welcome to the Aircraft Broker Academy podcast. Our guest today is Austin Clark. He flew all the way down from St. Louis, and he's going to share his story on how he got into aviation, how he started Aerosellers, which is his brokerage, and how the Aircraft Broker Academy helped him secure his first two deals. The main objective of this podcast is to inspire you to pursue a career in aviation, whether that is becoming a pilot or starting your own business. Austin has done it. I've done it. So I'm sure if you stick around, you will gain some valuable insights and tips on how to get into the industry. Austin, welcome.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me down. It's great to be down here in the great state of Florida. Having a great time down here.
It's hot.
Yeah, it's hot, very hot. And a lot of U-turns. You got to add 5 minutes to when you put in your GPS to go somewhere, just because there's so many U-turns. It seems like with the traffic.
Oh, for sure.
Beautiful area. I love it.
Yeah, it's nice here. So, Austin, one thing that I want to know is how did you get into aviation, and why did you decide to get into this industry?
Man, it's like I tell everybody. I think aviation shows me. It's crazy how things work out in life. So I was always interested in planes as a kid. We'd go to air shows, Thunderbirds, Blue Angels, obviously, and had the Microsoft Flight Simulator. So normal standard stuff. As a kid, always liked planes. But I pursued a career in law enforcement. Got into law enforcement very young and didn't really think much about aviation. My grandfather was a pilot. He wasn't a commercial pilot or anything. I think he was an instrument-rated private pilot. And talked to him about that a little bit. And I always thought that was a cool thing. But I mean, that really didn't inspire me in any way. It's just something I think I should add. So while working in law enforcement as a regular police officer, and then, going up into investigations, I remember sitting around the office one day in my late 20s. So I was already in law enforcement maybe 7 or 8 years.
Well,
and there were some guys in the office, and they were like, "Hey, this little airport down the road, they do flight lessons." And I was so surprised by that. I was like, they trained pilots at that little airport? I couldn't believe it. So I started, looking online and seeing what they offered and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool. So I did the discovery flight. Went out on a Saturday, went up in the airplane, and
172?
172. I remember it was like it was yesterday. I got up in the airplane and I was like, I don't care how much this costs. Like, I'm doing this. I'm going to make it work. So we landed, and that's when I started my private pilot's license. I had such a passion for it. I just remember the feeling like getting out of the airplane after a lesson, like, oh man, that's like the coolest thing. Hard to explain, really. And ended up taking out a personal loan. I was like, just to fund it. And as I was doing the training, I was like, man, this stuff costs a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like even the materials, like the kits and the headsets and everything you need, along with the curriculum and paying for a plane. But at that point, I started an e-commerce business, selling pilot supplies and aircraft parts. So headsets, bags, instruments, radios, all kinds of different stuff to kind of help.
Let me pause you there for a second. So you started your career in law enforcement.
Yes.
Then you discovered aviation.
Right.
And now you see how expensive it is to get into it.
Right.
So you decide to start an e-commerce store to fund your private pilot license. Is that kind of like the proper progression?
Exactly.
Now, how did you know about, selling online? Like, how did you learn that?
So one of my best friends, he was in the automotive industry, still is, and had an e-commerce business. And, we would talk after I would do a pilot's lessons, and I'd be like, man, this stuff is so expensive. He's like, well, is there do they sell it online? Like on e-commerce social, like websites, eBay, Amazon,
Sure.
stuff like that? Yeah, they sure do. He's like, man, in the automotive industry, there's so much competition. And then I started checking it out on Amazon and eBay and different marketing places. And I was like, there's a few big ones, but not a lot. So he kind of mentored me and helped me set this business up, and started selling stuff. And it supplemented my pilot training. That was really my first experience with entrepreneurship.
So do you like your store funded your entire PPL?
Yeah. Well, I told you I took out a personal loan, but not for all of it.
Right.
Yeah, I took the personal loan out first just to get started. And then it was a few months after that when I started the e-commerce business, and that paid for everything.
Wow.
So then I continued. I got my private pilot's license, and I continued with my e-commerce business, of course, and being in law enforcement, and then flying. And I was like, man, there's law enforcement pilots out there. Maybe there's a way to like merge these two passions, law enforcement and aviation, together. Well, not where I work, or not where I worked currently. So I started looking out at other government agencies, law enforcement agencies that had pilots. And ultimately, that's exactly what I did. I took a chance. I had to move out of state. I ended up getting the rest of my ratings. Had to go back to school, finish my bachelor's degree, and ended up getting on with a large law enforcement agency. And I currently hold that role. I'm a full-time pilot with them now.
I'm just very curious about the whole, e-commerce aspect of things. I think that is a pretty creative way to fund your flight training. When I was doing my flight training, I also tried to do like a bunch of different things, like wash planes and try to start different businesses. Um, did you use Shopify to
I did not. I did not use Shopify. It was mainly Amazon, eBay. Then I had my own store.
Amazon and eBay?
Yeah.
So, what platform did you use? Like apart from Amazon and eBay to set up your website?
So I actually use BigCommerce for that.
BigCommerce.
Yeah.
Did you do the website yourself, or did someone do it? Like, did you hire someone to do it for you?
I actually did it myself. It was a lot of work. And now with my brokerage, I hired somebody to do it because I think there's a big benefit in owning a business to buy your time back.
Oh,
so yeah, it was great. It worked out great. And I continued it for a while, and then we got hit with the pandemic. And obviously I was working full time as a pilot, and things slowed down with supply chain issues, and fees got higher. And these big box websites where you sell things, they can change the algorithm on you very quickly. And with a supply chain demand issue, if you say you put in a tracking number late, they can slow all your sales down. They have a lot of power over you. So with the supply chain issues, and then the raising fees, and then there were some tax issues too that they implemented, where you had to. I mean, I was charging sales tax in certain states that I was selling to, because I was nationwide. But some of these big box stores would also charge me a business sales tax in some instances.
sure.
So the profit margins slowed down. So I put the business on pause, and during this time, I started reading a bunch of personal development books. One of which, The Ultimate Jet Guide
by Tom.
Yeah, Buy Back Your Time, Rich Dad Poor Dad, several of these. And kind of reflecting, I was like, I wanted to continue to have a business, but I knew I needed to do something different. And I remember sitting there thinking, the most passion I had out of having my business was when I was interacting with people. And in e-commerce, you don't do that a lot.
Right.
And I like interacting with people and solving problems and helping people and setting things up. And that's kind of where I started to think about what other kind of business could I have in aviation. And oddly enough, it's weird how things work out. Oddly enough, at that time, my next significant other got into real estate. And that's kind of when I started, like, is there like a real estate agent for airplanes? I mean, I knew there was Aircraft Brokers, but I never really put two and two together. So I started doing some Googling and stuff, and that's ultimately how I found you.
Wow. That's crazy. So you just Googled how to become an aircraft broker or something like that?
I think I Googled, is there a real estate agent for airplanes? Something like that.
Okay. So why did you decide at the Aircraft Broker Academy? I mean, I'm sure with your research, you probably found like other courses or other training solutions to like get you there. Why did you end up deciding on Aircraft Broker Academy?
So I'm big on YouTube. I'm always watching YouTube. I love content. I love podcasts. And I saw your content. I saw the quality of your content and the videos. And that's what drew me to it. So I got on your website, and I think at the time, and I don't know, I haven't been on there in a while, but you offered like some lessons for free, like a demo.
Yeah.
A demo.
Yeah, like a free trial.
So I did those, and I was like, oh, I'm doing this.
Wow. Okay. So you joined the course. How long did it take you to complete it?
Well, when I joined the course, I was like, I knew I could have rushed through it. I didn't want to. I wanted to take it all in, learn the business, and start setting up. And, I still had a business. I still had legal structure in my other business, but I had to transform it into the brokerage that I have now. And I took my time. It took me about 3 months to get through the course and start setting up the legal structure and getting everything. My idea was I want to be fully ready for when I make that first cold call. I want to have this set up. Like I'm not starting business today. So that's what I did.
Very good. Very good. So you are in the state of Illinois, correct?
I am.
Okay. You know how in the course I mentioned how there's like some states do require you to get an aircraft dealer license and stuff like that.
Right.
Did you do all that research? Did you make sure that Illinois is not part of that?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
I researched so much. I was on the computer for hours upon hours every day.
Very good. Very good. So, all right. So you complete the course. Everything is like the structure is set up. Talk to me about how did you go out there to, what type of outreach did you do when you started out?
So, that's the good thing about your course is it tells you kind of how to get clients and kind of what strategies to use. So I use those. So I looked for people trying to sell an airplane online, whatever medium they were using that had very vague descriptions and not very good photos. And then I would reach out to those people and try to sell my solution to their problem and try to, tell them that I can offer them a chance to get more views on their airplane, and I can take their plane from start to finish and, go from there all the way to the end.
Absolutely. So you're talking about like Facebook Marketplace.
That, yeah, and Craigslist as well.
And okay, good. So, how many of these outreach were you doing per day? Do you know?
So, I'm big on focus on the standards. So I always set like a number for me. So I did 3 cold calls a day. And for those people out there watching, I know cold calls are like what everybody fears the most. They're a necessary evil. You just have to do it. And you'd be surprised, what can come of it if you just get over that initial fear and just get out there and start calling people. Just talk to people. That's really all it is. You don't have to, as soon as they say hello, you don't have to start selling your spiel. You're already nervous. Get them talking about their airplane a little bit. Ask them about it. Ask them if they've had any buyers, any offers. And I guarantee you, most of them are going to say, well, I had a guy say he's going to come by with the money on Saturday, but he never showed up. And that's where an aircraft broker can help you as well.
Yeah, no, and at the end of the day, this business is all about building relationships. Like, first of all, if you get in a call and you're like, hey, this is so-and-so, I'm a broker, clink.
Right. Well, that has happened.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't start the conversation that way.
Right.
Just, hey, this is so-and-so, is the airplane still for sale? And just start a conversation with them. And eventually, you can just dig a little bit deeper into what their pain points are and offer a solution. That's essentially what you're doing as a broker. We need to first find the problem, and then we offer the solution, whether that is to represent the airplane or help them find one. So, walk me through how you got your first client.
So, like I said, I was making at least 3 cold calls a day. And something I didn't touch on is I was also sending a lot of messages because some people won't answer the phone, or like, for instance, on Craigslist, you can't call them. So I put together a pretty detailed message about, how our brokerage can help you, what services we offer, and if they're interested, to reach out to us. And you'd be surprised. A lot of people call back. And so the first one, I think it was actually from a message, and he called me. And I think his initial question is he was wondering if he thought he had a good price on his airplane. And so I did a valuation on it. And I said, I think you can raise it up about $4,000. This is what I'm seeing from my valuation. He goes, you think you can sell it at that? I said, I think I can. And we signed up. And we actually ended up selling that airplane at asking price.
That is crazy. Did you use the same template provided in the academy?
As far as the contracts?
Yeah, for the aircraft listing agreement.
Yeah, and that's an invaluable resource you provide. I mean, you get so much from this course as far as the legal structure, how to get clients, everything from A to Z. I mean, the contracts are huge too. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously you need to make them your own and consult with, whoever you need to consult with, maybe be a lawyer or not, and for your particular state or country. And use your contracts. They're great.
And okay. So once he signed the exclusive aircraft listing agreement, talk to me about the process of like listing it, getting phone calls. How did you deal with all that stuff?
So yeah, first thing I did was I scheduled professional photos. So I reached out to a
Right.
professional photographer. I looked for someone that specialized in the auto industry, cars or
Okay.
airplanes. It's hard to find somebody that does airplanes, but you usually can find somebody that does cars. And schedule the photographs. Got some great photographs, and then I blasted it everywhere, um, and put a great detailed description down, log scans, everything. Set yourself up from success from the very beginning. Have the logs scanned before people start to call you, and yeah, then the calls do flood in. I mean, they really
They
do, and
do.
that's where for any of you guys starting out there, you need to have a CRM. Like it's
Yes.
especially once you get multiple listings, it's so hard to differentiate between airplanes and different people that have called. And if someone calls and they're not interested now, that doesn't mean they're not going to be interested later. So you need to follow up with them, and you have to have Pipe Driver, whatever you want to use.
Austin, is that what you're using,
That is what I
Pipedrive?
use. Yes.
And are you also following exactly how I have it in the course where I tell you to create like a pipeline for each end number? Is that kind of like how
Yep.
you have the flow set up?
It is. I think I put a couple extra steps in there just to
Sure.
say where the lead maybe came from, whether it's a Facebook lead, whether it's a Craigslist lead, whether it's whatever lead. Put a few other instead of just lead in.
Sure.
But yeah, the same idea.
Very cool. How long did it take to sell?
That one actually, uh, 10 days we had an offer,
Wow.
and as soon as I sent the aircraft purchase agreement over, the guy calls to me in the morning. He's like, "Oh, I can't buy the airplane anymore." I'm like, what's going on? He's like, "Well, there was someone that was going to buy my airplane, and he didn't show up. He said he was going to bring the money, he didn't show up." I had no idea about this. He was going to buy it. I sent him the contract. He was going to buy it, and that's to touch more on how a broker can help you. It keeps the tire kickers away like that. So, I knew I had a good aircraft. I knew I had it at the right price point. So, yeah, it was a little upsetting, but you're always going to have those setbacks. So I continued, and guess what? 30 days later, I had another full asking offer.
That is awesome. No, and I know exactly what you mean. Like sometimes transactions go smoothly, other times they don't. I had situations where I list the airplane and a week later I have an offer and it goes through. Other times I get an offer, we get in, they sign the agreement, we get into things, and then something happens in the pre-purchase inspection, the deal falls through. Now we got to start again. It's just you just got to be patient.
You do.
That's the secret. And I mean, at the end of the day, they're paying you a significant amount of money, so that's your job. Be patient and just go with it. You know. So I know you said that this guy told you, "Hey, I can't buy the airplane uh, because I had a buyer that was going to buy mine, but he backed away." Now, talk to me about what you did there,
You
because
know where I know you know where this is going. So of
yes,
course, I found, like we talked about earlier, I found his problem, and I was going to try to be his solution. So I offered to list his airplane as well, and he wasn't interested in that. He was using someone at his local airport that wasn't a broker, but kind of just maybe did it on the side, didn't have a business or anything, but just kind of helped people through the process. And he said, "Oh, he knows the industry well, and I know he'll be able to sell this airplane. I'm going to continue with him." And so I didn't get that deal, but and I don't know that I reached out to him again. I don't know that it ever sold. Um, but yeah, he didn't end up listing with me.
okay, all right. So how did the process? So you said a week after the deal falls through, later on, like a month later, you get a second offer. How did that process go? Like, was it pretty smooth? Did you run into any issues? Just talk to me about once you got that second offer.
So it was relatively smooth. I mean, the airplane and the buyer were in two different states, across the country. But the buyer actually had a friend who he used to fly in the airlines with that lived in the area where the airplane was. So he was an AMP.
Mm,
So perfect. He went over and did the pre-purchase inspection, and we opened escrow or we opened escrow before.
sure.
But yeah, that was I'll be honest. The hardest part of that transaction was getting people to sign e-sign, to do the e-signatures, because a lot of people in the general aviation industry, at least, they're old school. You know,
Sure.
they don't know the e-sign. They don't want to sign the sign and send it to you, scan it, send it to you. But no, it was relatively smooth. It worked out great.
That's funny you say that because I had an Aranca champ listed, and I ended up selling it. But it was hilarious because I sent the guy the e-sign and everything, and he actually printed the paper, the listing, signed it, and sent it to me via mail.
I've had a similar situation where he
You know?
printed it out, signed it, and scanned it back to me. Uh, but then I ended up walking him through how to do the e-sign just so
Sure.
that I can have it in the drive and everything.
I mean, it's so easy. You just
Yeah, it's very
sign, and
easy.
that's it. Cool. So when you got that first commission, how did that feel? Because I still remember how it felt when I got my first commission.
Yeah, I remember you explaining that in the course.
Yes.
It was great. I mean, it was really, it was about, you know, everything in life starts with a thought, right? And when you work towards something and you see it actually work and work out, it's a great feeling. And that's kind of what I remember is like, the thought I had actually worked out. Now I'm able to do this, and it's great. It's a lot of momentum off of that.
Absolutely. So I have a question for you, Austin. Sometimes, so when someone joins the academy, a lot of people succeed, but there's also other people that struggle. And I mean, you already had a background in aviation. I mean, you were a private pilot. But what is I know we touched a little bit about in cold calling and stuff like that. But what else can you recommend someone that gets into the academy and maybe they've been going through the lessons for maybe like 6 months and they haven't really gotten any traction? What can you tell them to help them get that first deal?
You just have to get yourself out there. You have to trust the process. I mean, like I said, there's gonna be setbacks. You're not gonna want to make the cold calls. You just got to keep going because once you get that first one, it seems like it maybe snowballs into more.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, this plane that I'm just talking about, the one that we sold, we just discussed, that actually turned into one more deal and then one more possible deal, one that I have active right now. So that one initial contact with him, he signed up with me, turned into a acquisition agreement, and then I actually got a client referral for another one that I have active now.
Can you like dig a little bit deeper into it?
Yeah, so we talked about this plane I had for sale, got a full asking offer on it, went through escrow. Well, I still was receiving phone calls.
Yeah.
And one individual called me and was asking about the plane. And I said, unfortunately, it's under contract. It's going to close in like a week. And he's like, oh man, I'm looking for that exact airplane. And so I started sending him similar aircraft that I was finding, just to be nice, just to, you know,
Were they, like the airplanes that you were sending him, were they like from trade plane and controller
yeah,
and okay?
yeah. I was just doing online research for him, just to be nice, just to, hey, here's one that you might be able to buy. Oh, thanks for sending me those. And he ended up reaching out to me maybe a few weeks later, and he said, hey, Austin, what would it take for you to represent me as a buyer's agent? He goes, he's an airline pilot for a huge airline,
Hmm.
one of the majors. He's like, but I know nothing about buying a general aviation aircraft. So I told him, and I talked him through the process and what services I could offer him. We signed the acquisition agreement, and in 48 hours, we had an airplane under contract for him.
Wow. Nah, that's incredible. And that's what I really talk about in the course too. It's like it takes time to get that first listing. But once you get that first listing, things start moving. It's like a snowball, like it's hard, you gotta push it, and but once it starts getting traction, it starts becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's interesting. So this guy had no experience. So you explained to him like what it is that you can do for him. So again, he identified a problem. He's offering a solution. Like, and I think this happens a lot. Like a lot of times, people start cold calling or sending messages, and they get a little bit discouraged because people may respond saying, "Well, I've been in the industry for X amount of years. I know how the whole process works," and the answer is no. I don't want to work with you. And people get discouraged from that. But the reality is, uh, someone is going to work with you if you're able to identify a problem and you can offer the solution. If they already have the experience or whatever, move on to the next one. Just if there's no problem, you can offer a service. And I see a lot of people just, I guess they don't understand that. Like, this business is not pushing your services. That's not what we're trying to do. Um, so this airline pilot decides to sign an aircraft acquisitions agreement with you.
Right.
Talk to me about how you went about trying to locate the perfect airplane for him. Did you do like a discovery call with him where you know wrote down all the things that he wants from the airplane and stuff like that?
That's exactly right. We
Okay.
did a phone call and we talked through the process, and he gave me some in numbers, some of which I had already sent him, and he kind of rated them. This is my number one. This is my number two. And so I started reaching out to those after everything was signed. I started reaching out to those sellers, and ended up getting him one under contract for, he gave me his price point he didn't want to go above, and ended up getting one for cheaper than he wanted to spend, and then we negotiated some other terms in there too.
Hmm. With the pre-purchase inspection, how did you go about that? Were you involved in that, trying to locate a shop to do the pre-purchase inspection, or did you kind of like let the buyer handle that aspect of things? How can you talk to me about how involved were you in that aspect?
Yeah, well, I definitely made myself available, but it just so happened where the plane was, there was a shop located.
Okay.
And being an airline pilot, he had the non-rev flight benefits, so he was able to fly out. And I set everything up to get the pre-purchase done, but he's able to fly out and watch it be done and put his eyes on the airplane. So yeah, I just kind of set it up, and he went and did it. I was willing to go meet him there, but he's like, hey, I don't think you need to come out here. I'm just going to fly out there and watch him do it. And he liked what he saw, so we moved forward.
That is awesome, man. So at this point, just talk so you helped a client sell an airplane, you helped another one find one. Where are you in your brokerage path
So
career?
so just to expand upon that one deal, the original deal we talked about, and then it turned into an acquisition agreement and closed that deal. I actually got a client referral off that too. So you could say
I mean,
you could say that first cold call or message I sent to that first prospective seller turned into 3 deals. So I'm driving in the car one day, I get a phone call. Don't know who it is. Hey, I reached out to this guy that was selling a Citabria, and he said you sold it for him at asking price, raised his price and everything. He goes, I want you to sell my airplane. I said, well, send me what you have. And it's active right now. So as far as what I have going right now, I have 6 active listings and
I'm
a couple more coming.
I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you.
Like that's absolutely incredible. Um, so after you after you completed the whole course, how long did it take you to get where you are? Like the first deal, more or less.
I would say, like I told you earlier, I wanted to make sure everything was in place. The
Sure.
website was built. Everything was good to go before I reached out to anybody. When I reached out to the first person, it took me a few weeks to get that first listing. And, we're 6 months in right now. So we're just getting started. 6, 7, well, we're in a new month now, 7 months in.
That's impressive. I mean, the thing is, like, I know I said it a couple times, but I just want to make the point. When I started, I mean, and you know this because you heard it in the course, but it took me a whole year.
Yeah.
And I, I think one, there wasn't the resources that we have nowadays. You know, there's not back when I started in 2018. There was not as much information as we have right now. I mean, in fact, I didn't even know when I started. I didn't even know what an escrow was. Okay, because
Gotta use them.
no, you have to use an escrow. So I was literally doing the bill of sale, aircraft registration application, having it signed if it was an LLC statement, all that stuff, put it in a manila envelope and sending it to the FAA. That's how I was doing it, and that is not the way to do it. So just to kind of give you an idea of what I was doing back then, but I was also dealing with fear. Okay, I guess at the time I was an AMP, and I never sold an airplane before. I never helped anyone, buy an airplane. So I was very fearful to tell people that. Okay, so in your case, is it a personality trait of yours, or how did you, because I don't know, I feel like a lot of people experience that, right? Because when you joined the academy, you never did this before.
Right.
So and you're telling me you're like cold calling people, and it sounds like you're confident about what you're telling them. Is that something that did you experience that when you were doing those initial calls?
I did. I think that's the one hang up. I mean, that, like I said, it's a necessary evil is the cold calls. You just have to be able to put it aside and just know that and trust the process. And you're going to get better as you do it. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to be nervous, but like I said, don't start off your spiel with you're an aircraft broker and I want to sell your airplane. Just talk to people. No
Yeah.
one knows what you want unless you communicate
Yeah.
it. It's, it goes back to a lot of different things in life. I mean, you got to, you have to clarify what you want to do. You want to be an aircraft broker, but you have to communicate it, whatever that is. My significant other and I, we do a fair amount of traveling. And we have this little joke between us. We go out to eat. We always sit at the bar, and it's not because we're big drinkers. We rarely drink, but we like to talk to people. And so, just a little story about that. We're eating dinner at a bar one time. It's a restaurant, but we're sitting at the bar. You get faster service that way, by the way.
Yeah, that's true.
And this guy comes in with an AOPA shirt on, right? Sits right next to us, and we just strike up a conversation. I'm like, "Hey, you a pilot?" Yeah, yeah. I'm a pilot too. So we were just talking. He ended up owning an SR-22 at the airport that's right across the street from my house. Now, we didn't make any business deals. He's not one to sell his airplane, but that's the networking you do. You have to communicate what you want to do. And that's part of those cold calls. You have to put yourself out there. And to touch on something you said earlier, you can't get discouraged. It's not going to be easy, but you can't let 15% of the people you call that are negative affect what you're doing. Just move on to the next one. Don't even worry about it. Just move on to the next one. When you sign up for this course and if you do things right, you're set up for success, and you're going to ultimately help that client with their problem, and they're going to succeed in selling the airplane. So you just have to trust the process. Don't get worried about, the 15% of people that are negative.
Absolutely. My other question is, for example, when I started, there was a training program. I'm not going to mention the name, but it really didn't provide an in-depth overview of how the whole transaction takes place. Because it might sound simple, but there's a lot of moving parts. Like when a transaction is smooth. It's pretty easy. But when things start like, you do a title search and there's a break in the chain of title, or like all these other issues that can show up, things get a little bit more complicated. Do you feel that by taking the course and having a complete overview of all the things that can happen and how the whole process works help you gain some confidence on these calls? Because at least that's how I am. I just, at the time when I started, I don't think I completely understand what I was doing, and I think some of that fear came from that. So do you feel having that knowledge behind, in the back of your head, that you're able to do this whole thing, that also propel you to, or yeah, essentially that help you gain the confidence necessary to talk to buyers and owners?
Absolutely. And that's the great thing about your course is it's set in the modules, and you can always go back and review something. So just for instance, I took on a listing that had a lien on it. I knew that from the very beginning. And so what I went back to the lien part, the
Yeah, the
lien
lean. Yeah,
video, and it wasn't a big deal. I cleared it off before I even
boom.
listed it. What had happened was 20 years ago, a prior owner of the airplane took out a personal loan and used the airplane as collateral. And I reached out to the bank, and they had been paid. So we got the lien release and listed the airplane. But yeah, I referred back to that, and I would say, yeah, that does build confidence, knowing that you always can go back to the training to kind of refresh your memory on whatever you're doing. And the more you do this stuff, the more scenarios you're going to be put into, and you're going to learn one thing from, at least one thing from every scenario, and that's going to make you even better, which is going to transform into more confidence on the phone, because you have to gain somebody's trust to sell their airplane. And the more experience you can get in the industry by doing as much as you can and communicating it to as many people as you can is going to set you up for the ultimate success.
Absolutely. Austin, you're currently focusing on piston aircraft, is that correct?
I am.
Is your goal to like move on to, maybe turboprops and jets, or just kind of walk me through what your goal is with your brokerage?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal, is to get into bigger, more expensive aircraft.
Sure.
And also to expand within the brokerage. I already have a few people that I'm talking with that want to get trained as brokers as well. They're pilots, and they've kind of seen what I've done, and they've been inspired by it. And they're like, hey, I mean, I think, I would like to do this kind of,
Work. Yeah.
join your thing. And, it's still very new, but it's something I'm exploring. But there's also a thing in business called manageable growth. You don't want to get too big too fast. You want to make sure it's just like you don't want to start your business before your business website's done.
Sure.
You want to make the right steps before you do it. But that's the goal. Turboprops, get into jets, and maybe get some other brokers working with me.
Very good. And I love that you say that because, um, you know, sometimes also people feel intimidated at, oh, becoming an aircraft broker. That's like this huge monster, you know. But it's all about what you're saying, step by step, step by step. Don't look at at oh wow, becoming an aircraft broker, all these, you know, potentially I need a license, potentially I this, that, whatever the case may be, contracts, lawyers, accountant. Don't look at it like that. It's I love how you did it. You, before you even start into things, you first build your foundation. I'm not sure if you start a new LLC or you use your past one and kind of like restructure it, but that's the first step. Then you went and you started building your online presence, which includes your website. I'm assuming you probably also edited the contracts and agreements that were provided in the course to show your business name,
Yeah.
so that way you're ready, lock and loaded for those clients. So just take it by step, and that's how I do everything, man. Like whatever comes my way, I always say, okay, I have this in front of me. What's the first step?
Exactly. We have a term in law enforcement called segmenting. We segment a big, huge problem. We take into in segments. Only worry about that one segment right now. We call it the win method. What's important right now? So for you starting out, what's important right now is getting your legal structure. Make a checklist. Checklists in aviation are, we always go back to them. You know, make your checklist and tackle one or two a day. You're going to set up your LLC. You're going to, you know, start the process of getting your website going. Start your business bank account. Get all that going, and just take it step by step. Don't try to worry. Don't flush yourself with the whole thing. And like I said earlier, manageable growth. So everybody's situation is different. Most of these people, you know, a lot of these people might have other jobs. You know, you still have to do your other job. So you go at your own speed.
I was going to ask you another question. And with your full-time job, how do you manage to run your brokerage? Because, you know, obviously you don't have every day to focus on your brokerage, but you're doing well. So can you tell me how you manage that? Like what do you do? Like, do you have do you set your schedule in your calendar? Like, how do you manage this whole thing, having a full-time job and running your brokerage?
Well, lucky enough in my job, I'm on a 4-day work week. So I have an extra business day that's totally devoted to the business. And then I get up earlier and get what I need to get done on my checklist in the morning. And then I make sure to do what I need to do afterwards. And that's where the CRM and stuff comes in, because you know, if someone calls you and you can't answer the phone because you're at your job, you have to call them back. So you're going to have to put that in there and put in all your tasks you're going to need to take care of when you're done for the day at your regular job. So you have to manage it. You know, good aircraft broker has to be organized, but you also have to be reachable. You have to be able to answer the phone and call people back. So it's all about organization, I think.
Yeah, I know, absolutely. Back in 2018, when I started my brokerage, I was an AMP, so I would work, you know, Monday through Friday. I think it was 8 to 5. We had like a 30-minute break, you know. I think it was a 10-hour break at 1 or 12, I don't remember, and then another 30-minute break. So what I would do is work in my breaks, make sure I call whoever I needed to call or whatever the case may be, and I did just fine. You know, obviously during COVID, it did slow down. Like I was not getting anything. I mean, I did have like a couple listings, but I was not getting any buyers.
Right.
So we'll see how things are going to turn out this year.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year.
Yeah. Did you by any chance read the new third quarter 2024 report from BREF?
No, I got the email. I haven't.
Make sure you check it out, because it seems like things are slowing down a little bit. But
yeah, I think so. I think I've noticed that too on my own.
With your own listings.
Yeah, with my own listings, it seemed like the beginning parts of the summer were a little hotter than they are now. Now we're getting towards the end of the summer, but this week's been good. A lot of calls coming in.
Cool. So, is there anything else you want to add? Any tips or advice to people out there trying to become aircraft brokers?
Yeah. You know, it's like anything in life. If you want to do something, you have the desire to do something, you can do it. So don't push it off. Start now. And invest in yourself, whatever that is. For me, it was, you know, I do a lot of reading, but I also invested in buying his course. And if you're still watching this and you can remember at the very beginning of this interview, uh, when I went up in the airplane, did my discovery flight, I was in law enforcement, never thought about being a pilot. And I decided I was going to get my private pilot's license at that time. I have more ratings now, of course. But investing in myself to get that private pilot's license was the investment I had to make in myself to be in this industry. So invest in yourself, buy the course, do the online coaching through whoever you do. I still use a business coach, and things will happen for you. You just have to do it. Don't put it off. Just start now. You can do it. You can do it. You can do anything you want.
I love that. Yeah, no, and that's how I feel too, man. I don't know if you know this, but I'm originally from Spain,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I have like this fire in me because people, when I was growing up back there, it's a whole different culture. It's not like the U.S. where you get trophies for whatever. Over there, they're very raw and real with you, and they used to tell me, "Hey, you will never be anyone in life." Literally, the teachers. So I have this huge fire on me, man, to just go out there and get it. And there's just nothing that's going to stand in my way. So the just get started. And if there's anything in your past or anyone that has ever told you that you can't do something, use them as fuel. And you'll get, I'm getting goosebumps.
I love
it. And you'll get to wherever it is that you need to get. Austin, thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your story. And guys, stay tuned for more podcasts like this. If you're in the academy and you haven't gotten your first deal or you're still struggling, just keep going, man. Like, he's done it. I've done it. And there's many other people that have done it. So you can do it. You can do it too. And then let me know, and I'll fly you down to Florida and you can tell your story. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next spot.